Welcome back to the channel, guys. And yes, I know, it's been quite a while. But today I've got a brand new series for you, most likely a sporadic one at that, called Ones to Watch. What it will aim to do is to introduce you to a game that you might not have heard of, but will certainly have you regretting not paying attention to. During this video we'll look at what the game is, how it plays, the good and bad, where it could go, and when to expect it. As a result, this series will often feature games in alpha or beta stages, soon to be released. Our first candidate and today's one to watch is The Cycle Frontier. So what is The Cycle Frontier here, you ask? The easiest way I can explain this is imagine everything you know about Escape from Tarkov. The high risk, high reward, often quite intense looter shooter which has risen to fame in recent years. Then imagine taking everything about that formula that makes it work and dump the player in the setting of James Cameron's Avatar. And you have The Cycle Frontier. A game which, if I got my act together and finished the video before the beta got extended, you probably could have checked out. So, sorry about that. Of course, that previous description is a gross, yet accurate oversimplification of how the game plays. When starting up the game for the first time, the well-animated intro explains that us spacefaring humans found another resource-rich planet, plopped down, built some structures and started digging and mining away. Fantastic. Typical humans, right? Oh yes, inclusive of Avatar and its unobtainium, this probably sounds like the basic plot of just about anything sci-fi you've ever seen before. But luckily, it's the gameplay loop which keeps us entertained, not the story. See, as with all things in these scenarios, shit went south pretty fast down on this planet Fortuna 3. No, this time we didn't start a war with the native species or go and have to kill their bug queen. Instead, vicious killer storms struck and the local fauna bugged out and started killing everyone. The planet became uninhabitable and all the humans retreat to an orbiting space station nearby. 20 years later, when everything is nice and overgrown, is when our journey begins and we find ourselves and many other prospectors, aka other players, aboard what's basically the game's main hub of activity, Prospect Station. It's here you can customize your character, check out all your gathered loot, re-equip and re-arm at the quick shop, craft even more items, guns and equipment, and then repair what you already have in use from your recent haul of items. Meaning, you want a bigger backpack? Find 4 of these to craft it. How about a set of armor that heals you over time? Go and kill X amount of these and then gather a few of these as well, and bam, there you go. And then the best thing is, you just can't buy these ingredients, you have to go out and earn them. You can also take up contracts from one of the 3 major factions that exist within the game. Taking up and completing these contracts successfully earns you some credits, reputation with the faction, and faction specific tokens. Unlock and purchase their specific gear and weapons when your reputation is high enough to give you an advantage out in the field, as typically these are a lot better than what you can find in the quick shop. Meanwhile, the faction specific tokens allow you to upgrade your quarters, which is a small room which works much like one of the Grand Theft Auto 5 apartments. It's kind of the same building as everybody else's, but instanced just for you. Except for when it's not and you kind of see the glimpse of another person leaving. But anyways, they allow you to upgrade them, which, while obviously not pleasant in the beta, is while I implement a little warning. As you see, The Cycle Frontier is planning to be a free-to-play PvPvE game. And as a result, it needs areas to monetize in. The most obvious being the now well accepted addition of a season pass, much like you'd see in most battle royale games, granting the player cosmetic items to take out and use in the field and in this hub. The other is a noticeable inclusion of a very mobile game mechanic, where a generator and quarter upgrades in general take time to implement. During the beta, using credits in-game allowed you to skip these waits for a very small fee. I could see this changing, however, for a real-world currency, which would be a shame but in no way would harm the game overall. Just a premium currency would have to be added as an option. On top of this, there are free daily crates, again much like mobile games. A random selection of a locked-in set of tiered items, locked to whatever level your current quarters can generate. Just something to note, areas of the game which could be and may be monetized on full release. As for the K-Marks generator, which is the name of the in-game credits, I reckon it's just the game's way of ensuring you log in regularly. See, they're generated by the minute but have a generation cap. meaning every now and then you have to log in and bank your current gathering in order to min-max the potential of this feature. Otherwise you're just missing out on free money because, well, your bank's full. Simple yet smart. So that's all of what's basically a glorified UI in Prospect Station. Time to show you what a typical gameplay and standard run is like. In this sci-fi as hell-ass game, you drop in a pod on a random location on the map, typically on the outskirts so you can work your way in, but I've also been dropped almost dead center of the map before. I'm pretty sure there's predetermined locations, but you have to be playing for a while to get to know your bearings or witness the same drop location twice, which is a good thing. Which gets multiplied tenfold when you consider that there are multiple maps to drop into. So right off the bat, let me tell you, this game is beautiful and goddamn horrifying at the same time. You'll see vistas, farms, swamps, warehouses, dig sites, biological research centers, and practically any type of settlement or structure it would make sense for a recently colonized planet to have. If you're anything like me, as well as just looking plain gorgeous, audio plays a major factor in this very intense atmosphere. The distant wailing of a recently activated data center, or the pitter-patter of a nearby potentially hostile prospector. And thanks to its alien settings, the damn near terrifying snarling of a lurking alien predator outside. The game's audio really lends itself to one of the main factors of keeping you on the edge of your seat. And we haven't even talked about its main gameplay loop, the fear of losing all of your valuable gear and haul. You see, in the Cycle Frontier, your typical idea is to take a maximum of 3 of the ever-rotating contracts, 1 from each of the major companies back up at Prospect Station, and find or do whatever they task you with, for rewards. Then, call in your extract and get the hell off that planet. However, it's the variation in what they want you to do or find which strikes a chord. The more reputation you have with any given company, the harder and riskier but higher paying contracts are on offer. Corellev will primarily have you mining ores of the land. ICA will tend to have you scavenging for old but useful man-made items, and Osiris focuses on flora. You will see that the basic contracts such as go and kill 8 of this, or fetch X amount of these from this place or dead alien, but it's the way in which the cycle forces the player clever or play into the intentionally alerting something or someone to your presence, which is smart. Everything in the game is signposting something that you'll want for yourself or at least want to investigate. Seeing drop pods land nearby knowing a fresh player spawned in, or the crack of a gun or a number of weapons discharging in the distance and having to wonder if it's a PvE or PvP fight. And by far the most impressive one to witness first time is the landing of very rare but valuable meteors onto the map, which, yep, they can kill you if they hit in the face, so don't do that. Practically any given item or mission on map, even with a simple inventory looting mechanic, has been designed to urge player interaction, and other prospectors scurrying to find to and from these highly contested resources as fast as possible. The prospector who is the fastest, most knowledgeable, daring or lucky survives and becomes rich. It's the constant thought of having anything and everything in this game is out to kill you and take your loot while you go about your everyday business. And we haven't even mentioned the cycle itself. See, the cycle isn't just the main tagline for the name of the game. It's also used to describe the game's catastrophic storm. Happening rare yet frequent enough, this storm cycles around the planet, hitting everything and anything pretty hard. The map will get darker and foggier, blurring the once often clear vision. Rain will begin to pour, and what can only be described as balls of hatred-focused lightning will charge and explode all around the character as you move about, with enough of a kick to close to one-hit kill you, should you not be paying attention. Then on top of this, before the cycle even emerges, you lose your chance to extract, leaving you and many other players stranded on Fortuna Free for a length of time in which, if you're like me and my cowardice ways, you can go and find somewhere to hunker down in and just wait out the storm, or you could take full advantage of it. You see, there are certain things that only happen during the storm, such as some creatures dropping altered but more valuable versions of their typical loot. Alternatively, if you're confident enough, you could just continue rotating around the map looting and killing. It's not unheard of for people to go AFK inside of a building and try and wait out the storm on a second monitor. Overall, it's just another way in which the Cycle Frontier manages to stay fresh. Alongside this, the game's gunplay as a whole feels very good. The stalking of unsuspecting prey to gain an advantage of some kind, alongside with the very gratifying sensation associated with filming another prospector and seeing their lifeless bubbly stone corpse laid out on the ground with loot spread out around about it, is immeasurable. So is the heart-churning amount of disappointment that you feel when you've been foamed, just as you're thinking about being extracting with all your loot is. Coupled nicely with a splash screen of what you could have taken home, should you have changed what you did and when you did it. The maps are designed particularly well with vibrant colour splashes and interesting objects and buildings to investigate. That said, not everything's sunshine and rainbows, as the game also knows when to get dark and gritty, giving the player options and rotations of a higher risk, by offering them passage through caves, tunnels, large buildings, and well laid out open areas full of flora and fauna. Where not having a plan B escape route can often lead to a timely death if you bump into someone or something. The map is designed to funnel players down certain routes frequently, but thanks to a fairly forgiving vaulting mechanic and a good balance on fall damage and jump distance, allows for some of the great parkour moments and scenarios in which often seem intentionally designed, but also lucky, to offer better traversal, escape routes and vantage points should you know an area well enough. So while all of this may seem hunky-dory as a solo player, it wasn't the gameplay I often found frustrating, but rather the matchmaking. As with all PvPvE games, there's strength in numbers. Something a player like myself just didn't have at the time. Naturally, it seemed like most players I found being friendly would be playing solo also. Like the time I stumbled across a dude just wanting to finish up his power puzzle right in the middle of my extract zone. And as I said, the game keeps the typical go here and bring back this looter shooter loop pretty fresh by complicating all basic actions, and as a result there are a great amount of activities that can take place planetside and in general just by quirky things to keep your eyes and ears open for. Personally, I hope they expand upon these with more time-consuming tasks, such as this power puzzle, which had the player trying to find all of the power cells to open a loot room and other lucrative and different ways to get loot. At the same time, it's glaringly obvious that they are a lot harder to do if you have a group of 3 players with all purple weapons breathing down your neck. Something I hope that can be addressed, but totally understand can't be completely fixed, as it's just matchmaking into worlds with similar sized parties running wild. Again, this could already be a thing, and just a couple of times I played had me being regularly outgunned, and I'm just unlucky. When the game releases, I'll be sure to check out the duo or squadded gameplay, as I have to admit, glaring from afar, cautiously but jealously watching the thrill of other people hunting other people did seem ridiculously thrilling. I'll forever be thankful for the guys letting shots off nearby, which allowed me to escape groups that were trying to hunt me down at the time. For now. The cycle has a whole heap of promise, and the price of admission is hard to ignore. A map or 2 more, maybe an event which forces all the players to go against the environment or AI, a few more type of aliens of all shapes and sizes, and this game could be legendary. Regardless of what it does eventually launch with, when it comes to games which may blow up or deservedly garner your attention, hopefully with a locked release window of 2022, the Cycle Frontier is certainly one to watch.